I see her.
The suave voice interrupted my breakfast. It was a fine day in the southern coast of Italy, and I was in an uncharacteristically zen mood, until I was interrupted. What? I kept my decorum. If Tracy felt this information important enough to come into my personal space, I had better give him the benefit of the doubt. To interrupt a lichen during meal times was bad enough, but to interrupt a lichen prince was suicidal.
The girl you had me search for. I can see her now. It's like she had been protected or cloaked, but she's not anymore.
If it wasn't for the fact that this was the news I had waited to hear for nearly 2 decades, I would have torn him to pieces. Tracy was lucky he was bringing me good news. Where is she?
Canada.
I blinked. Of course. Let me guess, Nova Scotia?
Halifax.
Cloaked, huh. I didn't know how Ian did it, but he had managed to hide the child all these years, even during inspections, it seemed. Well, now it's time I set things in motion. I got up to open a small drawer of a medicine cabinet. I grinned at the little pink cubes. You head to Halifax. Keep an eye on the situation, Tracy. Let me know if anything changes. The man left with a quick bow. Now for some tea with father. Finding my parents in their personal garden, I gave them a smile.
Son, join us.
An Omega set a place for me and left us be.
You seem to be in a good mood.
Father noted. Mother gave me a smile as well. I am. I found something I've been looking for.
What's that?
The Moonchild. My father practically choked on his tea.
We killed it. You know that.
No, we killed the mother. Clearly she lied about her child being stillborn. My parents paled. The king shook his head.
No matter. We simply kill it now.
Oh no, we won't be harming the spark bearer.
Spark? Don't be ridiculous. I told you, the thing will be dark, if it has any power at all. Best to destroy it. Besides, the world will come down upon us if they find out we misinformed them of the Moonchild's demise.
I suppose you're right. It would be bad if they realized we held no power over them. The king grunted. My mother looked concerned. It's a good thing I found her first, then.
Yes, I suppose that's good.
He set down his empty cup, and I happily filled it again, stirring in 2 lumps as he preferred it. He took the tea from me.
Why were you looking for her anyway?
He took a long sip. Clearly I overheard the initial report about the mother.
I'd gathered that.
His hand shook a bit. I am sure that she is the spark bearer, Father. She's the key for us to get our connection with the moon goddess back. She's true power. With her at my side, the lichen will be unstoppable. The now empty cup slipped out of my father's hand and shattered on the floor. His shock-locked face filled with horror as he realized what was happening. Mother jumped up and rushed to her husband.
What have you done?
I'm taking power, of course.
But to use poison, where's the dignity in that?
The information wasn't shocking to her. In my father's century of rule, he had killed many, including 2 of his sons, just as soon as they started showing ambition for the throne. Mother hated him for it, and had always warned me against being too bold. Still, she was a believer in tradition.
You must kill him with your claws, Bastian. Please.
I need the power, but not the title just yet.
Bastian!
Plenty of poison left for you, Mother, if you'd like. She shut her mouth instantly. I'll let the Omegas know Father is unwell and you will be tending to him. Don't worry. Once I get the Moonchild, I'll be taking the title with my claws.
It was still stormy and gloomy when I woke. It took a minute to understand my surroundings. As gloomy as it was morning, and I was on the floor by the door exactly where Reed left me. I had slept there with the door unlocked. This was not the neighbourhood to be so careless in. I stood up and locked the door. Everything ached like it was reflecting my heartbreak into my muscles. I took my sundress off and sat on the bed. The dress had been too tight after all, and I opted not to shove myself into any of my old clothes. The leather duffel bag was still on the bed, left open with Reed's shirts sitting right on top. I pulled one over me, the shirt very loose and comfortable. The scent of waterfall wafted from it. My heart squeezed as it dawned on me that it had been Reed's scent all along, and not the storm at all. Unable to understand why this hurt me so, I cried. I had cried more in the last day than I had the first night away from my mother. It seemed I couldn't help it when it came to Reed. Just because he was the only person who was nice to you. I chided myself. But the sound of my voice in this lonely apartment made me feel more miserable. Maybe away from the territory I would find more people who would be kind to me. Maybe I will have a chance to make new friends, if they didn't find me creepy. I wish this thought cheered me up, but it didn't make me less lonely now. Tomorrow the storm will pass. Tomorrow I will get up and build a new life. Tomorrow I will free myself from thinking of him. And maybe tomorrow I can lie better to myself.
A day locked in my room listening to the storm beat more rain against the window was the best I could do. Sarah called.
Boss,
Not today.
you okay?
Just not today. I locked my feelings against her worry. I couldn't deal with that too. My chest ached, my lungs burned, my head pounded. My body felt heavy like I had the flu. My wolf howled and dug at me, begging me to go back. Can't. We need to protect her.
We will only be weaker without her. We can't send her away.
I knew it wasn't just the distance that hurt. It was the decision to be separated. All I had to do was to change my mind, to decide to be with her, and this pain would ease. But I wouldn't put her in danger like that.
No, she is my mate. She is our Luna.
No Luna was better than a weak Luna. Having a weak Luna would only endanger the pack. So my only choice was to bear the pain alone, to rise above it, to embrace the pain and become stronger than the agony I would bear for life. That was the only way to protect Ari and the pack.
Ari!
Goddess help me. I had to stay away.
Maybe because I was used to working so much, 2 days of laying in bed wasn't easy for me. I listened to the last of the storm taper off in the middle of the night and watched the sunlight hit the beige walls of the apartment at sunrise. I couldn't lay here anymore, I decided. I had to make something of my life. Otherwise, what was the point of Reed setting me up outside of the territory? What sort of life would I have in the territory anyway? Let's say I managed to be a hidden human among the wolves. I would continue to live in that silo. Reed was right to send me away. I got out of bed with a sense of purpose. I need a job. I looked through the duffel and remembered what Reed told me. I needed new clothes. I put on the one blouse that wasn't too tight. The other one I had was missing buttons because of how rough Reed was in the van. Stop. No thinking about Reed right now. I could feel my skin flush and tingle at even a few seconds of that memory. I took some of the money from the envelope and walked out of the apartment. There was nobody to ask directions to anything, so I decided to take a walk. Luckily, there was a boutique around the corner. It was one of those fancy places and not nearly as cheap as a supermart, but I went to the bargain rack and managed to buy a few good outfits. Nothing too sexy, I reminded myself. Something that screamed business is what I tried to go for. A typical white button-down, a suit skirt, and a matching blazer. This looked like a business suit if I ever saw one. That or a maitre d'. Maybe I could get a job at a restaurant. "Did you find what you were looking for?" the girl at the counter asked. I smiled. The girl didn't look away or show any kind of distress when looking at me. "That's right," I sighed, realizing this was one positive thing about being near humans. They didn't find my eyes frightening. The girl continued to smile as she rang me up. I went back to the apartment and changed into my new outfit and walked into the fancier hotel down the street. I asked for an application, but they asked me to apply online and ignored me pretty much instantly. Great. So now I had to find a way to do that. A few people glanced in my direction as I walked out of the lobby, and I felt self-conscious. Did I look stupid? Why were people looking at me? It was probably all in my head. I didn't want to try any more for today. My body ached, and I felt on the verge of tears. My mind kept reaching back to Reed even though there was no reason to. I hung up my new suit and threw on Reed's shirt. I sighed at the comfort, and my tears fell. "That was a hard day," I commented to the empty room. There was nothing to do in this apartment. So I wallowed. I sank into my loss and let it consume me for the night.
It had been 2 days since Ari left. I had to find a way to leave my room. I did some push-ups, pushing past my dull aching that threatened to lock my body to stone. Next, I had to shower. I started the hot water and the remnants of her scent released in the air. I stayed under the hot shower for a long while until there was nothing left of her perfume. Go back, my wolf begged. No. I had to put on my game face. Life moved on. I needed to move on. I had to prepare to become alpha. Sarah greeted me.
Hey, Reed. You look like hell.
Good morning to you too, sunshine.
Who put the wolfsbane in your coffee?
I knew I sounded bitter. She gave me a sideways glare but didn't pry. It obviously bugged her that I wouldn't tell her what was going on with me, but I didn't need people knowing that I was missing my mate. They didn't even know I had a mate. And they would never know that mate was Ari. I walked into the kitchen and asked for coffee as breakfast had already been cleared from the dining hall. An Omega handed me a mug and left cream and sugar next to me. Ari already knew how I liked my coffee and adjusted it to perfection before giving me a cup. I tossed some sugar in and ignored the cream. I listened to the conversations, thinking there would be some issues with Ari's sudden disappearance. To my surprise, though, no one seemed to have noticed Ari was gone yet. "Do you think the halfling is sick?" one of the Omegas finally asked. The head chef shrugged. No one moved to go find out. "New post," I mumbled. That was enough for them not to ask after Ari again. They seemed relieved. She was my world, but to everyone else she was just a creepy halfling. This irked me, but what could I say? All she did was try hard and do good work, and what was wrong with this food? It tasted bland. I sighed, finishing my plate of eggs and bacon out of sheer politeness. Clearly, Ari was a better cook. Another reason to miss her. Thanks. I left the kitchen not interested in seconds. The younglings were lounging about in the large parlor area. "I just heard an Omega say the freak left," someone said. The elites were nearby and Sarah looked up in surprise.
When?
Layla smirked.
Who cares? Good riddance.
Comments like freak and creep were tossed about from others. Oh, how I wanted to tear their throats out. The fact that Ari had been tormented by her peers for years should be a crime they should pay with their lives. It disgusted me so much that my inner wolf could barely be kept in check.
You're no better. You left our mate.
Unable to say anything to stop them, or to stay and listen to any more insults, I went back to my room and curled up.
Another day of walking around the city. I found a library and decided this might be my best chance at learning how to survive. Job hunting was quite dejecting so far, mostly because I didn't have a resume or a way to get a hold of online. I managed to open a bank account so I wasn't walking around with cash anymore, which made me feel safer, but I felt woefully unprepared for the outside world. I looked through some books on resume building and learned how to use the old-style computers they had on hand. After that, I browsed the self-help section and picked out a book that promised 10 steps to a new me. I also picked up some fashion magazines and perused it to get some ideas on style. I had never had to think about being presentable. My old clothes were tight and juvenile, but my new clothes seemed to make me look boxy and generic. I felt hopeless. "Nobody wants to hire a freak," I mumbled. After a few hours in the library, I put back the self-help book and the fashion magazines. I didn't get much help from either, other than feeling less confident about who I was. Reality was just so harsh, so I went to the fantasy section and picked up a book about werewolves. I flipped through it, bibliosmia soothing my soul. Empowered by my knowledge, I critiqued the section. Nope, not how it happens, and ooh, if you only knew. I laughed quietly and set the book back. Vampires? No, thanks. Ghost stories? No. There was a whole rack on romance, which I avoided. I had enough reminders of my rejection. Here we go. Mysteries. Probably meant for 5th graders. The material would be just enough intrigue without scaring the daylights out of me. I grabbed a stack labelled Books 1 through 6. It was a 12-part series. This should distract me just fine from my loneliness.